committing themselves to civil rights, the new government.
The battle has ended. Good morning.
1969.
Missionary Charter is not only a guide to those who lead our nation in government.
On notice, Lieutenant General Sheriff Ekofo.
In an attempt to make scapegoats of Rawlings and his men.
For the first time in Ghana, a group of junior army officers had attempted to
country. After 3 months, they handed over to a civilian government under Hilal Liman.
I will set the appropriate examples myself from France.
B. Parliament is dissolved. C.
Error has come into being in this country. Supposed to be 24.
Of the free maternity care for our women. Late President knew numerous occasions good job.
Here we are, once again, we are back on United Cadres Front TV to discuss matters of relevance to the performance of the NDC government. The first year of the NDC government has been acclaimed with widespread and universal approval, and people have appreciated it a lot. But across the entire sectors of the economy, there have been figures and facts. And then just a year ago, we were in a different state altogether. And so we need to compare and see where we have come from and where we are today. And today, to help us understand some of the economic figures that have been mentioned and some of the changes that we have seen, is a man who is in command of the subject of economics and finance. And he is Dr. Jabir Mohamed. He's a senior lecturer of economics and finance at the University of Ghana Business School. So welcome, Doc, to United Cadres Front TV.
Thank you, Mr. Bright, for having me.
Yeah. So we have seen a lot of approval, a lot of approbation, widespread acclamation of the performance of NDC government over the past year. Internally, externally, even those who are not NDC have expressed their approval of the performance of the NDC government. But we have seen a couple of things in the area of what the promises of the manifesto of the NDC itself. And some of the things are related to things we know about monetary affairs. Everybody was crying over dollar rates, betting tax, and a whole lot. So the government has taken a few steps, and has done a few things to correct some of these things. They say the economy is much, much better now. We have seen the World Bank report that says the economy is much, much better. What is this economy? Can you give us a brief overview of what the Ghanaian economy is or looks like before we begin to give us explanations about this?
Well, the Ghanaian economy is, I would say now, is a robust economy, as you may see. But that notwithstanding, every economy has gotten a particular structure that you have to observe. So for instance, we have the agricultural sector, we have the industry, we have the manufacturing sector, and we have the services sector. All of these constitute to form the generality of the entire economy as a whole. So it is quite imperative that you always see the Ghana Statistical Service coming out every quarter to tell us that this is how far the economy has grown, especially not only on quarterly basis, but normally even on semi-annual basis. You hear the finance minister coming to read a semi-annual budget, which means that a mid-year budget, you have cover the first year, and getting to the later part of the year, the finance minister also come back again and give you an overview of what has happened in the current year and what is going to be happening in the next coming year. So holistically, you will see that the agricultural sector is very important in every economy because it constitutes the food basket of the economy. Then you have the services sector, i.e., what we are doing right now is a services sector. What I do as a lecturer is a services sector. What others do in the quarry, in the manufacturing, in the construction of roads, etc., that gives you the industrial sector. Then you have the manufacturing sector where you manufacture goods and services to feed the population. But normally, if you see the Ghanaian economy, it's usually a service-led economy. It used to be an agrarian economy, but now we are having a service-led economy because our services sector is constituting more close to 50% of the entire economy, and other sectors carry the rest of the distribution. So if you look at the Ghanaian economy as a whole, it tilts towards the services sector.
Yeah. So now let's go on and see. Can you give us, were there some significant changes over the past year between 2020 and 2024, and then between 2025 and early part of 2026, in any part of the economy that you can talk about?
Well, significantly, you have already said it earlier on. Ghanaians are saying that things are moving in the right direction. And as you can see, naturally you will see any buoyant economy, the citizens themselves will respond to the needs of the economy, how the economy is being fed. So for instance, if you look at the area of inflation, we have drastically reduced inflation from a double-digit inflation to a single-digit inflation. By the end of 2024, inflation was 23.8%. By that notwithstanding, you have to remember that it used to be 54%. Then it came down to 23.8%. And by the close of the fifth review of the IMF, that is somewhere last year, October or so, when they came to review, the inflation had come down to about 8%. And the inflation ended at 5.4%. And you have heard a lot of people making a lot of noise about it, etc. And if you also look at it from the perspective of exchange rate performance, the cedi has considerably done very well. If you look at it, you realize that it has appreciated close to about 36% before October last year. And even getting to the end of the year, the cedi was being sold at 10 point something Ghana cedis when the government took it at around 15 point something Ghana cedis. So naturally, you will see that these are things that exporters want to see. These are things that importers want to see. Let me put it that way. For exporters, they are more interested in the depreciation of the cedi so that at least they can export more of their goods and get this in. But, our economy is more of an import-dependent economy. So since it's an import-dependent economy, then it means that when the cedi is performing very well, prices of goods and services are more likely to be low, as we are seeing right now. You used to see, just look at cooking oil, the price even went up to somewhere 2022. The price went up to about 1,000 plus Ghana cedi before it came down to about 500 and something, 600, 700 and something. Now it's being sold around 500 or 450 Ghana cedis. So which means that at least there has been some considerable impact. If you look at the prices of rice was the lily rice, it was being sold at high as even closer to 190 something cedis. In recent times, I think I bought it somewhere 140 something Ghana cedis, which means at least there has been some level of impact as a result of appreciation of the cedi. And people are seeing that they are feeling it in their pocket. If you look at the appreciation of the cedi, you realize that petroleum prices have significantly declined. If you go to the pump and you are going to buy fuel, You are not buying the fuel like you used to pay about almost 17 cedis some time back. Now, even the super SPR is now being sold at 11 Ghana cedi, and the normal one is being sold at 9 point something Ghana cedi at Goa filling station. And even in some filling stations, the prices are even further down as compared to what we used to see. So, and when it happens that way, it's supposed to translate to the lives of them, especially those who patronize this. But that notwithstanding, we still know that some of the transport prices are still very high, and people are still talking about it. And I think government is having an engagement with the transport companies to ensure that the prices of these products are actually being transfer prices are being transport prices or fares are being reduced. So we are seeing significant progress within the space of the economy. If you look at the GDP growth, though the growth that we received last year as compared to 2024, the growth last year is a bit lower as compared to 2024. But in generality, I mean, we want to make stability. So stability is very important in every economic adventure that you undertake. So you realize that in as much as the growth may not be so much, but there is stability within the economic space.
Yeah. We thank God for that stability and the government helping our pockets. Now, there are certain remarks that have been made. For instance, the World Bank said the increase in Ghana's reserves helped the strong cedi, and that has also given us a higher rating. Normally, well, the little economic knowledge I have tells us that gold is used to prop currency. There used to be a dollar as a reference worldwide, and then they used the gold to support everybody's currency. That brings to mind the gold board that has been set up by the John Mahama administration. What role would you say let's say, how the gold board has monopolized the purchase of gold and then is controlling the gold that goes in and out of the country? It's now even processing gold. So Ghana has got gold in addition to whatever it's doing. What role did this play in our currency stabilization, inflation control, and then the overall better economic outlook?
Well, this is a very powerful question. In as much as we want to talk about the gold board, we must also bear in mind that what role has the finance ministry played? What role has the central bank played before we come to gold board issues?
Yeah.
Because these two institutions work hand in hand, and even Ghana's Statistical Service, they work hand in hand to ensure that you have a stable economy. So if you look at the finance ministry, when I was talking about the performance of the economy, I want the ordinary people to understand what is going on. And if you even look at it, I didn't talk about the debt to GDP ratio, etc., and how that has impacted, and how the finance ministry has in recent time been able to retire some debt, especially even to individual bondholders, etc. If you recall, when the government came in, there were a lot of challenges in that sector, and the government had to raise some money to pay some of the bondholders. Over, I think, 9 point something billion Ghana cedis was paid to individual bondholders who were struggling. And even in recent times, the finance minister has made some payments, external payments, about 1 point something billion dollars as a form of debt. So what the finance ministry has done very well, ECOWAS has gotten something called ECOWAS conversion criteria, where we have to meet it, about 5 or 6 conversion criteria. We are supposed to meet it so that at the end of the day, we can all be in common currency. You remember, that convention, we have been talking about it for a very long time ago.
Towards the ECO as a currency.
Towards the ECO as a currency. And Ghana, as a country, has long ago not been able to meet some of these conversion criteria. So the finance ministry and the Bank of Ghana have worked hand in hand to ensure that some of these conversion criteria have actually been met in one way or the other. So for instance, if you look at the finance ministry, they say they want to do primary balance surplus of 1.5% of GDP, which means that before you make your interest payments and amortization and everything, you should have a surplus balance of 1.5% of GDP. So what that means is that, and also the finance minister says that they want to have zero financing from Bank of Ghana, which asking Bank of Ghana to finance component of the budget. You know, the budget comes with, in the budget, you have your total revenue that you collect and your total expenditure. And always the total expenditure outweighs the total revenue before interest payment and amortization of the debt that we hold. So the finance minister said, let's do primary balance surplus of 1.5% of GDP, which means that you have to be a careful spender and somebody who wants to spend in priority areas of the economy, so that at the end of the day, you don't end up overspending and not seeing the reality that we used to see in the past. So the finance minister said, let's do 1.5% of primary balance surplus, so that at least we can keep the economy stable, which means that you don't overheat the economy with a lot of spending that will make it more inflationary. Others have argued that the reason why the inflation figures are coming down and that the exchange rate is performing is because the finance ministry is not spending. That's not it. The finance minister is just being a careful spender. He wants to ensure that he spends in sectors of the economy that is driven by growth, that is supposed to create jobs, that is supposed to bring transformation. That is what the finance ministry is doing. So they've been able to do that, and we have been able to meet that because, I mean, the ECOWAS Convention Character says that at least you can do up to 10% of financing from central bank. And we are currently doing 0% financing from central bank. Unlike the past, where the central bank was turned into a printing house. You remember that in 2022, thereabout, over 48 billion Ghana cedi was printed from the Bank of Ghana. That's why we had the debt exchange program, right? So most of the monies the government picked from the Bank of Ghana was used as marketable securities. In finance, when we say marketable securities, meaning that you can always liquidate the money at any point in time. But the government of Ghana, the Bank of Ghana gave the government of Ghana the money, and the government of Ghana said, right, let's do a debt reprofiling, etc. That was why the Bank of Ghana went on that, what do you call it? They had a loss of about 60.8 billion Ghana cedi as at that time. That was the main reason. So the finance minister said, no, I don't want to turn the Bank of Ghana to a printing press because they have to print money and come and finance the finance minister. Because you remember that anytime you have a deficit, you can finance the deficit in 3 different ways. One is to borrow internally, right, or externally. 2 is to go to the Bank of Ghana and ask the Bank of Ghana to help you finance it. And 3 is to sell important assets of the state. Even you as an individual, you don't have the capacity to print money, right? So you cannot do that, but you have the ability to sell any asset you have if you borrow and you want to repay, isn't it? Or if you want to spend and you don't have money and you have an asset, going to go and sell it. Yeah, you will go and sell it. And if you want, you can also go to the bank and do what? And borrow money, right? Yeah. But here is the case that as a government, you have the ability to go and print. But yesterday, someone asked me a question. Why is it that we don't have money and we cannot just go and print the money and we want to go and borrow? That's a multi-billion question, right? Maybe next time we'll look at that aspect. Why we don't have to print money and you have to go and you have to work for it. Yeah. So these are the things that the finance ministry is doing to be able to allow stability and also to look at priority areas of investment. I'm sure you will talk about the big push, etc., and all of that. I'm very sure you talk about it, so I don't want to jump the gun. And also, the finance ministry is telling the GRA that raise enough revenue. They've given them, they don't want to give them a lower target so that they will outshine and come and take bonuses. They give them a higher target. Okay. All right. And the finance ministry will say, okay, well, let's look at things that people do that are not right. Right? So the finance ministry, because remember that they have taken out some taxes. Remember that the VAT was around 22% or so. Now it has been revised to about 20%, which means that there's going to be a revenue shortfall. So once there is a revenue shortfall, what do? You have to ensure that you make provision for it. And making provision means that you have to close a lot of loopholes. So the finance minister now say, okay, fine, most of the things you have to approve, bring it to my desk. Even though that slows down governance processes, but it's a way of what? Checks and what? Balances. Then another thing is, okay, fine, let's ensure that the pot, we are able to put in certain mechanisms in the pot to ensure that we revamp things and we get things done. I think there's something in the budget that they talk very well about the pot, how they were going to revamp the pot and ensure that the pot works efficiently. And I know that the pot, now more vessels are coming than they used to be, which means that we are going to be generating more revenue at the port. And they are putting in measures to close those who are the guru boys and others who are taking in the money. The problem about Africa is that the loopholes have put, they have been able to catch, but the guru boys always know how to go around it. So they have to look at the second eye as to how they will be in a better position to complement that. So these are the avenues that the finance ministry has been able to, the measure they have been able to put in place, checks and balances. And recently, I know the president announced presidential advisor for the economy, a team of about 13 eminent people. And I believe that they will serve as a check and balances. I just hope that the finance minister and the president will give them the power, the autonomy to work, so that they don't become toothless dog like we used to have what we call the fiscal council. That never worked. The fiscal council was thrown to the dog. Fiscal Responsibility Act was thrown away, and anything at all was being done. These are the things that we are saying that in governance, you don't need to, in financial governance, you don't need to tamper with certain elements of the act that would relay you. In as much as the act has some caveats for you to follow, you must also be a wise spender. So now, if you come to the Bank of Ghana also has their role that they play, right? To ensure that we have that kind of stability. What do? They ensure that they manage their monetary policy rates very well. Stability, they ensure that prices are stable. That's the essence of the Bank of Ghana.
So in essence, the actual muscle that controls the finances of the country, making sure there are no losses and loopholes and overspending, is from the finance ministry.
It's from the finance ministry.
Yeah.
Then the Bank of Ghana is also the banker of the government, and also the controller of the financial system.
Yeah. So that makes the overall economy stronger.
It's stronger, very well. So if the overall economy is going to be stronger, it depends on the prudent financial management policies being implemented by the finance ministry, or by the Bank of Ghana.
Yeah.
Before the gold board even comes in. When they didn't lay down their foundation, how do the BOGO works? The BOGO is just a policy instrument, just like the Bank of Ghana is a policy instrument. Why is it that when the Bank of Ghana recorded a debt of 60-point-something billion, a negative equity position of 50-point-something billion Ghana cedi, the Bank of Ghana didn't collapse? Because the Bank of Ghana still met their policy relevant factors why they were made to be there. We'll come to some of the things that we'll talk about the gold board. We'll analyze it. We'll come to that perspective. But I want you to understand that the Bank of Ghana have to play their objective role of price stability.
Yeah. So
And
was it just the loose spending and the loose controls, or we lacked even the ability to prop up a currency that made everything go haywire?
no, we one could be that we did not control our expenditure. Because if you remember, we had even a budget deficit close to 17%. That was during the COVID time. And post-COVID, the budget deficit was still ballooning, which means that you were spending much more than you were collecting in terms of revenue. So what do you have to do? You have to borrow. You remember those days of kinky parties, anytime that people go and borrow some Euro bonds, they come back, some kinky parties were being organized at the Faster House, etc. You remember those days?
Yeah.
Yes, so those kinky parties, where were they being held? Okay?
Yeah,
so
that's what I
they
wanted to ask. That's what the role of the billions that were borrowed plus overspending.
So in finance, when you borrow and you don't invest, you cannot recoup.
Wow.
That's the long and short of it. We mean cash flow management is very important in any business that you run. As a business person, why will you be running the business and you run a bankruptcy? If let's say all what you can do, you see, if you look at, let me say you have your business you are running, all what you can do is that you cannot even pay the salaries of your workers. Can the business operate and exist? That was the situation we find ourselves in. So, I mean, the situation was so dire, but I'm just telling you the prudent management that the current administration is putting in place. And that's how come that we are looking a bit better. Of course, the coming into effect of the IMF it's still early days yet, as I may see, because when IMF is home, the behavior is different from when IMF is away. That's what you have to note. Okay. But let's see that some of the dividends that we are reaping today, we are putting in better structures in place. Reforms are being done, and that the structure is being laid. A solid foundation is being laid so that we can benefit out of it in the long run. So the Bank of Ghana, as I say, they are doing the stability. You see that currently, as the time in 2024, the monetary policy rate was running somewhere 28%. Monetary policy means that the rate at which the Bank of Ghana, the control, okay, when we say monetary policy, meaning that the control of the circulation of money, how you control money within the economy. We have two types of them. We have expansionary monetary policy and we have contractionary monetary policy. Just like the government, we have contractionary fiscal policy and expansionary fiscal policy. Anytime we talk of,
for the benefit of our viewers.
For the benefit of your viewers, when we talk of contractionary monetary policy, it means that you want to reduce the amount of money in circulation, which means that you have to raise interest rates high so that people will not want to, you will not lend money to people, and for that matter, more money will not be in the system. That is when you have higher inflationary factors. You have to raise your monetary policy rate up. In 2017, when the government took over, monetary policy rate were hovering somewhere, I think it was also somewhere 20-something%, because inflation was like 15%, and you need to up the monetary policy rate because you have to reduce the amount of money in circulation. Don't make it incentive for people to want to borrow and spend in the economy. Make it incentive for people to want to save their money rather than what? Rather than spending. So anytime the government raises monetary policy rates up, it means that the treasury bills are going to go up. The Bank of Ghana is going to be borrowing from the public at a higher cost, right? And for that matter, people will want to keep their money in bonds and stocks, the stock market and all of that, rather than what? Spending. That is the economic sense of it. So right now, the Bank of Ghana is saying that, okay, fine, inflation is coming down, exchange rate is doing very well, so let's lower the monetary policy rate. And the monetary policy rate has been lowered by close to 700 basis points. Based on the last review, when we say 700 basis points, means that it's been reduced by 7%. That's the meaning of 7 or more percent. Yes, because now it's about 18.something%. And they'll be having their review next week. Next week is a monetary policy review. They'll come out with a new rate, whether they want to further lower the rate because inflation figures are coming down. You will hear it when the Monetary Policy Committee meets and communicates. And the Governor of Bank of Ghana has assured Ghanaians that he wants to leave office when lending rate is at 10% or below 10%. That is the objective he has set for himself. And every business person is interested in low interest rates because the borrower benefits when interest rates are low. And people who have otherwise going and keep their money with the government of Ghana and be collecting small money will bring out the money and invest in the real sector of the economy. And that will bring in some benefit to the people. It will create jobs and expand the economic activities of the state. And by so doing, the economy will become what? More buoyant. So that is the role that the central bank has been playing to keep. And the central bank has also been able to come out with a number of policies to regulate the banking sector so that the banking sector don't become like we had the last time. They don't begin to borrow anyhow and have stale assets. When we talk of stale assets, meaning that assets that are not bringing in the benefit that it's supposed to bring. The Bank of Ghana is working to ensure that they are able to stabilize those things. So they've come out with a lot of regulations in recent times so as to make the financial system more robust. So that is what the Bank of Ghana is doing. Now to the Gold Board. And you have to remember that, you see, the Gold Board is acting on behalf of Bank of Ghana. That's one thing that a lot of people don't know. It's an objective on its own, but they're acting on behalf of Bank of Ghana. So, like we have been talking, if you look at the Gold Board, when did they start? They started 2021. The reason was that we wanted to ensure that we have, we have been producing gold for a very long time, right? Since we have been producing gold for a very long time, we haven't been able to have reserves in gold. That was the idea. But the idea is that since we are gold producing, which we have, so they born that of idea. In 2021, the gold for reserve was established. Then they were not actually doing pretty well. They didn't gather more gold as at that time. So the gold that they gathered was not too much. Not until 2022, when we began to have crisis with the prices of petroleum at the pump. Then the Vice President says that, and the Bank of Ghana says, okay, fine, why don't we bring in another program called Go for Oil? In financial engineering, excuse my language, let me take you much deeper.
Yeah.
In financial engineering, we have what we call futures contracts and forward contracts and swaps. If you look at what we are doing, we are trying to swap the gold for oil. Bring oil and take what? And take gold. Instead of using the dollar to buy it, let's gather the gold, give it to them at the equivalent of international world market, and let them give us what? Let them give us the oil. So the Bank of Ghana did that in collaboration with both oil and energy distribution company. And if you remember, and you look at the IMF report on the fifth review, you will notice that for for 2022 and 2023, the goal for oil alone gave us a debt close to 2 point something billion or 5 point something billion. Yeah. Alone. So like 2 point something billion. They bought a goal for about 5.6 billion, and they made a loss of 2.1 billion Ghana cedis. That was what the goal for oil, the loss that they got out of it. Then, if you remember in recent times, the IMF has flagged it and said that there was a loss of about $240 million. And that was a very big issue in the country. And that loss emanated, just like the goal for oil losses, it came from some fundamental principles. One, the Bank of Ghana, since the Bank of Ghana engaged the Gold Board or the Precious Minerals Company, the former one, Precious Mineral Company, in the case of Gold for Oil, Precious Mineral Company, to buy it on behalf of Bank of Ghana, they needed to have paid them for off-taker fees. So they were paying the off-taker fees to them, and at the same time, giving them money to do a validity of the purity of the gold. So for the off-taker fee, I think it was 0.5%. And the assay, we call it assay fee. The assay fee was 0.258% of the value of the gold. So these were the components that were being paid to the Gold Board. And another case or problem that emanated to the loss was as a result of the fact that, when Gold Board buy it for Bank of Ghana sell it at a discounted world market price. But because they wanted to stop smuggling and others and all of that, they have to give them the world market price so that they can aggregate it. So the policy element is that let's use penetrating, even though it may be a cost to the state, but let's use penetrating pricing policy to capture them and have them, because it has an overall impact on us. Because when we are able to mobilize a lot of reserves through that, that reserves can give us what we call a general equilibrium benefit in economics. When we talk of general equilibrium, we mean that all the sectors of the economy is acting in one model.
And they will be stabilized.
And there will be stability
and
harmony in the system.
Yeah.
Policy-wise, it may give us a cost, but in harmony-wise, we will benefit in the long run. That is when commodity prices are stable and Hegelian in nature. When we talk of Hegelian in economics, we mean that prices keep increasing. It doesn't come down. But you know that commodity prices fluctuate.
Yeah.
So that is something that Gold Board might have to look at in terms of their modeling approach. We shouldn't assume that commodity prices increment are perpetual. They are Hegelian in nature. No. They can plummet and they can what? They can drop. So there's a caution to Gold Board as we begin to continue to take. But in terms of policy-wise, like I told you earlier on, what is the relevance of the Gold Board? It is meant to aggregate, right? And ensure that there is value for our natural resources. That's the policy relevance. If they do, whatever resources that they gather, you weigh it against their policy objective. If their policy objective is fulfilled, and they make losses like Bank of Ghana made the losses, but they could fulfill their policy relevance, and they will say that you keep it. Why didn't you say that because Bank of Ghana made a loss, Bank of Ghana should go to the down draw? We should collapse Bank of Ghana. There was no need for Bank of Ghana. Why didn't you say that? Why do we keep Bank of Ghana? We kept it because it has met its policy factor. There is something called policy factor in economics. Policy factor means that you weigh the revenues that you have bring in against the expenses that you have spent to keep your policy objective fulfilled. Has Go Board been able to fulfill their policy relevance? That is the question Go Board should be asking itself. Just like Bank of Ghana continue to exist by achieving its policy relevance, Go Board should measure their policy relevant factor. Now, to the performance of Go Board, whether it has been able to do well. Ideally, commodity prices are going up. You already said that the IMF has upgraded us, right? They said, okay, fine, well, given all other things being equal, the economy is very important. Ceteris paribus, very important. If the fundamentals of the economy is strong, the economy should speak for itself. Right? Someone says, if the fundamentals are weak, the issue will expose you. Right? I am saying that if the fundamentals are strong, the people themselves will feel it. Okay? So IMF tells us that we should not be too quick to celebrate our gains. That's to tell us that we should measure the way we celebrate our gains. In as much as we may applaud the people, we should be quick to measure the way and manner in which we celebrate the gains that we are getting from Go Board. I will send that caution so that we don't too much anticipate that when commodity prices begin to have a trembling in the international capital market like gold, it has a shock in the system. Have we been able, in economics or in finance, you always have to look at it from two dimensions. You look at it from a worst case scenario and a very good case scenario. Have you look at it from a lower point of view that commodity price, oil price can come down, 30 something and all of that. And we are experiencing that now, especially when supply outstrips demand. Right? We are seeing that. So the relevance of Go Board, as we stand right now, last year they were able to do close to 100 and something metric tons of gold, which is a very good aggregation. But then notwithstanding, the gold price went up to about $4,000+. And that was formerly not there. So if you look at it clearly, you realize that we have met our reserves 3 years ahead of time. IMF projected that we're going to meet about $13.something billion by 2028, when President Mahama is exiting office. But we have met it in the first year of his office. That's a good convergence criteria for the eco. The steady appreciation is a good convergence criteria for eco. The inflation is a good convergence criteria for eco. We have met all of that. Primary balance, we have met it. Bank of Ghana financing of central government, we have met that criteria in 1 year. This is a criteria. So I have mentioned about four criteria that we have met within a year. We have primary criteria, we have secondary criteria. Among the two of them, we have met close to 5 of them criteria, which means that the government has done something better than what some couldn't do for the past 8 years in government. What they couldn't do in 8 years, 1 year has been able to resolve it. People have said that the global economy is favorable to you and all of that. Everybody come at a good time. John Mahama would have been happy to be president in 2020, right? Maybe God told him that if you had become president in 2020, the whole world will have seen you. But today, when you wait for the good opportune time to become a president, and that is what has happened to him. And that's what has happened to Ghanaians. So in as much as we are celebrating the gains, we have to be cautious that when other exogenous factors hit us, are we prepared to receive the same exogenous factors like we are receiving the gains now?
So what are those exogenous? What do you mean by exogenous?
When we say exogenous, mean the external factors, factors that are not within your means, that you don't have control over. They are external, they are not endogenous in the model. In economics, we have endogenous, we have exogenous models. So these are the things we are talking about. So Go Board, yes, we have been able to increase our reserves. And as a result of the increment in the reserves, we have enough money cover. So when we are importing, we can pay. When the BDC $1, oil company, we can give them. When importers $1, we can give them. There is abundance of dollars. So for that matter, price is going to fall. Based on the demand and supply factors, price is going to fall. That is how come that the price of the CD to the dollar is falling. It's a basic demand and supply forces. So the effort of Go Board, so when it happened that way, what do? Now banks, in terms of their dollar capitalization, their capital ratio has gone up. If they require 400 million Ghana cedis, when it used to be 15 cedis, it means that it was far less than even $100 million. Today, even when you do the calculations, you can do the calculation yourself. If you pick 15 cedis and divide it by 400 million, you realize that the denominator is high. Today, the denominator is small, right? We are doing about 10 point something Ghana cedis. So it means that banks' stated capital, as in dollar denominated terms, are higher as compared to when it used to be 15, right? Which means that our banks are becoming robust in nature by the appreciation of the city, especially the local banks. Even the foreign banks are going to be happy, because when they are going to repatriate profits, they will report good profit to their parent companies, as compared to if the city is not performing very well. And if you go to the stock market, the firms in the stock market have also been highly valued as a result of what? The appreciation of the city. You go to the import sector, which means that our import bill has reduced. We don't need more CD to import things, which means that our CD is performing there too as well. If you come to our debt to GDP ratio, a standard debt to GDP ratio in dollar denominated terms, it has reduced it. So a stronger CD means a stronger economy, and a weaker CD means a weaker economy. Yeah. Because of the nature of our economy.
Yes. So a lot of factors go into getting a strong CD. Some strictly from the banking sector.
Yes.
Others straight from the finance ministry.
And
their controls.
And their controls that they have put in place. Discipline, financial discipline, that has helped to restore the economy back to. So if anybody should tell you that, it's just only the activities of the Go Board, and that, look, I can tell you that the activity of the Go Board alone is not up to even 30%. Yeah. But the effort, the financial discipline, anchored by strong policies and regulation from Bank of Ghana, is what is making out this game. So if anybody should tell you that there have not been any structural reforms or discipline that is coming from the government, then I dare to tell you that I differ, and the person is not saying the truth.
There has been this talk, and you have mentioned it, that you don't stabilize or make situations better over just a short period of time. But we have chalked these successes, and the government is being hailed everywhere, both by its own followers and even members of the opposition, and then the foreign partners too. But let's see, it's still 1 year, not much. Maybe we can call what has been done stabilization.
No, so even if you look at the energy sector, okay, the energy sector, you remember when the government came in power, you remember that the energy sector was owing over 70 billion Ghana cedi, all right?
Including
the legacy debt and all of that.
Yes, and the independent power producers.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, all of them all put together. In recent times, they have been paid. It's because of the savings we are getting from these things and the fact that there's something called the cash waterfall mechanism that they put in place so that they can do proper distribution and you can have a stable power. You can't run an economy without stable electricity. Here we are talking, are we not using energy? So energy is very important. All right? And I must laud the Ministry of Energy for all the good work they are doing and all of that. Even currently, Thermal Oil Refinery is coming upstream. It's going to, and it is estimated that Thermal Oil Refinery together with Santor Energies, they are going to be producing close to 70% of the oil we need internally on our daily basis.
Yeah. You have mentioned this oil production, but before we leave there, let me ask you, President John Mahama mentioned in the press engagement some time back that we expect to be producing refined for our use using oil from Ghana's oil fields, so that when that goes, oil from Ghana's oil fields go into Tor in Ghana, and maybe the other refineries in Ghana, the cost of the final product, the diesel, the petrol, aviation fuel, and the kerosene, will be lower. To what extent has anything been done? Any progress made?
No, well, the last time I had a conversation with the CEO of the managing director of Thermal Refinery and others, their team, the argument was that I asked them whether their refinery will be able to refine the crude oil from Ghana. And they said, well, the success of the refinery is dependent on the raw materials. Then my argument is that we already have the raw material here. So they said, okay, fine. They are putting in the structures and the measures in place so that they can refine it. You have to bear in mind that, you see, the oil that we are extracting, we don't own everything. You know that?
Yeah, of course.
Our percentage is very small. And where we get our percentage is from maybe participating and carry interest. Okay? Then maybe we also get from royalties. Royalties are paid in kind. Participating and carry interest are also paid in kind. But we have our stake in the oil sector is very low. So even if you pick all our raw things from them, we don't take it in dollar, in monetary terms, and we take the kind. And we want to refine it in Ghana. It's not going to be enough. We still need to bring different food from another country to help with our refinery here. So unless, of course, we enter into an agreement with the partners in the sector and say that whatever you produce, even though you pay us our royalties and you pay us our participating interest, or you pay us our additional oil entitlement interest, maybe Ghana would have to okay, fine. But that is dependent on the fiscal regime that we have. If we enact, maybe we have reforms in our fiscal regime, then we change the model, then we have an agreement with them and say, okay, Cosmos Energy, Aker Energy, or Greenfield Energy, or ENI. When you produce this, give us 5% or 10% of the sell 5 or 10% of it to us and take the rest away so that we refine our own internally. If you're able to have that agreement with all the other guys, ENI, Talu Oil, Springfield Oil, not Greenfield, Springfield Oil, and all of that. If you're able to have that conversation with them, then they agree, then they can give us that component. Then we know that we have more raw materials to refine within this. Our refinery can do that. It's not that the oil we have here, they cannot do it. We have two types. We have the onshore and offshore. Our own is offshore because it's in the sea.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, but I suppose once the president did mention it,
So
we
they
are
have
moving in that direction.
They have to move in that direction.
Yeah.
You see, there's one thing about saying something and another thing about the implementation procedure. Once he mentioned that any statement the president stands as a policy and make becomes a policy statement.
Yes.
It's left with the Minister of Energy and the accompanying agencies, GMPC, Tama Oil Refinery, BUST, because they have to be storage and all of that, the bulk oil distribution companies and all of that, they have to come together and ensure that they come to a harmony. So that when that harmony is being is reached, then you realize that things will work smoothly. When you are implementing the policy, the players in the sector is very important, even including Seaboard, Chamber of Petroleum Consumers and all of that, the oil marketing companies, right? And the bulk oil distribution, everybody must be involved. When they are involved, you will see that things will be better. When they wanted to introduce the 1 Ghana cedi, additional 1 Ghana cedi. Remember last year, there was additional 1 Ghana cedi we were asked to pay.
Yes.
Because the petroleum price globally or the cedi was performing well. So the government of Ghana asked for 1 Ghana cedi. The people, I remember I was in one of the stations and we were talking about it. I gave my objective economic view about it. So somebody came in and was like, why should I say what I said? He's surprised that a lecturer is saying, I said, no. I am arguing on the point of view of an economic point of view. And you don't even know my background because I'm an energy person. I did my PhD in oil and gas, financing, oil and gas resource mobilization, how to mobilize the resources from oil and gas and how to spend the money for a country and a private sector. And how that interact with financial markets and how that interact with sustainable development goals, etc. This was the area I wrote my PhD thesis in. So I cannot be seen as a new noob speaking on an issue that I don't have an idea about.
Yeah. But we shall have some more time devoted to energy. But today's economy and economic forces and factors and components.
Energy is a key component in economic analysis.
Yes,
because you have to do production and distribution, right?
Yeah.
When you are producing, what do you use? You use energy here. When you are disseminating the information to the public to listen, what do you use?
Oh, I
use energy.
too.
So energy is an integral part of what? Every economic endeavor. But then it has more.
But it will be more time to deal with the issues. So more so when energy producers have threatened to shut down and then plunges into darkness.
Exactly.
But I don't know, but yes, it looks like everything is looking so good and glossy, what the government has been able to do over the past year. And that is why we need to have a closer look. You have explained discipline, tight controls, and so forth. But let's see, this idea, Ghana and in our part of the world, Africa, the levels of poverty are so high. And especially in the last 8 years, due to acts of commission and omission, banks were collapsed, ancillary jobs related to the banks were collapsed, and because the situation got out of hand with high interest rate and a low value of the cedi, all manner of small the medium-scale industries also collapsed. So many people were thrown out of jobs, adding to the already large numbers in unemployment. Well, how could you say, what would you say about the 1 year, or about the past 1 year? How has all these good achievements of the government in the area of economics and finance impacted the levels of poverty?
Well, if you look at it, if you were buying fuel at a rate of, let's say, 15 Ghana cedis per liter, and today fuel is being bought at a rate of, let's say, 10 cedis per liter, have you saved? How much have you saved? You've saved 15 cedis.
Roughly 5.
You've saved 5 cedis.
For 9.8.
5 cedis, yes. So you saved like roughly 5 cedis.
Yeah.
If you were buying liquefied petroleum gas to cook, and the price was, let's say 9 point something or 10 point something per metric cubic, and now you are buying it somewhere, let's say 6 or 7 point something metric cubic, having to save some money?
Yes, you have.
You have saved some money. If you were borrowing at a rate of 34-35%, and now you are borrowing at a rate of 18-19%, as a borrower, are you not saving money?
You obviously have.
So when your purchasing power has increased in the economy, we see your purchasing power has increased. So when your purchasing power increases, it has indirectly put money in your pocket. And if you remember, the finance minister says that they've taken COVID levy out. They've taken communications, what do you call
tax.
it? The financial services tax, which is the Momo tax, has also been removed. Then there has been a recomputation of the VAT, and that has directly reduced the VAT rate to an effective rate of about 20%. And all of that culminated to close to 9 billion Ghana cedis. That's been put in the pocket of what Ghanaians. And also, the finance ministry has also increased the threshold of small businesses that have to do tax retention. If you are going to do a tax retention of $250,000, you have to pay some tax. Now they have taken it to about 750,000 Ghana cedis, which means that it has given the opportunity to small-scale businesses to have some tax incentives to expand their businesses and go out of poverty. So you realize that deliberate policies have been put in place to indirectly put money in the pocket of Ghanaians. And as it stands right now, the multidimensional poverty index has fallen from 23.6% to about 21.9% in recent times, which means that over close to 1 million plus people have been taken out of the poverty index, which means i.e. the health, the education, and the income, etc. These are multidimensional. Multidimensional means that several factors coming together to form the poverty index. So people will say that, but these indices are coming down. We are not seeing it in our lives. Then I'm just telling you that this is what the government has done, and it is reflecting in the lives of the people. You remember even recently, Vamo, the lawyer, the popular lawyer, Arise Ghana or whatever, is it the one who has been leading the demonstrations?
Yes.
He says that he goes to the pump to buy things and he feels good about the fuel that he bought. He feels like buying some of the fuel to go in store. Unlike in the past. Do you get it? Gabi Ochridaku today granted an interview and made the point that the way economy is looking, he prays that the economy continue to look the same way. Which means that even people who will ordinarily not have seen the progress of the current regime are seeing it.
Yes, okay. So in the short run, a good number of people are experiencing the maybe multidimensional benefits. I can say, I put it that way.
Exactly.
But if you cast your mind back and listen closely, you will realize many businesses collapse. So for them, they're not going to start. They will have to start from somewhere before they even start benefiting.
No, the point of the matter is that government will just have to put in the programs and policies in place. You know, they initiated the Ejumawura program and all of that. There's a slow pace of a lot of some of the policies and programs. It's not just about infrastructure, but we have to put in some sub policies and programs. The Women Development Bank, the 24-hour economy, etc. We have to begin to roll it out. I understand that the slow pace of the 24-hour economy might be as a result of the fact that they don't want to repeat what happened to one district, one factory, one village, one dam, one constituency, 1 million. All of these things could not materialize because they were not properly thought out policy instruments to regulate how they should operationalize. That's my candid opinion.
Just told to woo.
Yeah, so it was a slogan, a sloganeering policy that was anchored by political voodoo. Let me put it that way. So that kind of slogan they wanted to chant out for the general public to get to know. But that notwithstanding, I am thinking that people are taking precaution of whatever at all they have to do, so that at the end of the day, we don't end up having a failed policy. For me, a delay in the action of the policy is not a failure in the policy, but rather a very well thought program that can bring in the benefits that the people will have to reap out of it.
Yeah.
So it may be delaying, but I think that when it will roll out, it should be done and done well. Otherwise, if the 24-hour economy happens not to be properly operationalized, then the government will be on its knees. It's something that was properly healed. But you know how and I've always argued that look, you can have a good 24-hour economy if you don't have a good road network, you don't have a good transport system, you don't have a good airwaves, air transport, and all of that. These are fundamental things, and energy, very important. Why would you be moving in the night? Sometimes when I'm moving in the night, I feel sad about this country. You go all the streets, the lights are off. We are driving at a risk.
Yeah.
So these are things that, fundamental things that we have to work on it as a country.
Yes. But I think that is a statement I've heard over and over for a long time, that you don't really do things in a rush. Cutting too much too soon,
yes,
will have a negative effect.
Exactly. So we want to see a positive effect out of this policy. So I think that I have seen the framework of the policy component of it, and it's one of the brilliant framework that we are gathering. And I'm confident that when it is properly rolled out, the benefit will come. It may not be 100% as we started, but as time goes by and governments get committed to the policy will work.
Yes, the same as.
And I also think that there should be a legal instrument to guide that policy. If you don't have a framework, if you don't have a legal framework backed by parliament, and another government comes, the policy will be thrown to the gutters. It can even be within the same NDC government, and the policy will not, because it was an idea muted by a certain president, and that certain president is gone.
Yes.
So, in as much as we want to operationalize it, we should give it a legal framework.
Okay.
That is supposed to be a what do you call it? A legal framework that Parliament should pass, have a presidential assent, and that is supposed to be a framework for development and for continuity, irrespective of the government in office. We continue it.
Well, I believe we also ascend.
Just like we have free senior high school being continued, we have capitation grants being continued, we have health insurance being continued. The 24-hour economy needs a legal instrument to let it be a continuing government policy.
Yeah.
It should not just be, you see, one factory will go off. One village, one dam will do what? Will go off. And etc. One consume 1 million will go off. Because they were not properly instrumentalized. They were not legal instruments that guided them.
Was it realistic at all?
No, so that is why I'm saying that 24-hour economy should be a realistic one. There should be a legal instrument to guide it. It should be, it should come to stay. It shouldn't be like a slogan being chanted by NDC, and when NDC is in power or another NDC president takes over, it shouldn't be a policy of Mahama.
Yes, well, the realism of 24-hour economy is that you are generating the jobs and letting production go through the day and then continuing through the night.
Yes.
So that if the business has been created and the new factories have come up, like I say the textiles that we have talked about, and other hopefully cottage industries for the youths and so forth, they are meant to produce, and once we are sustaining our energy generation, they will sustain through the night.
Exactly.
So that is quite realistic because it is a viable business that is working.
Exactly. So, productivity is very important. And when you increase product, I always say that the anchor of every economy is hinged on your capacity to increase your productivity. If you look at China and other places, they developed at the back of that, where ideas were muted by the citizens themselves, supported by Xi Jinping. Xi Jinping was their leader. He was going around from camp to camp in the 90s when they were beginning to formalize and beginning to think about rethinking so that they can improve. When they did that, after what did they say? When you do that, the engine of every economic activity in group is that you have to finance the economic objectives. So they came out with what we call the Exim Bank and the Chinese Development Bank. And this were the two sponsoring them. And what they do also do, first of all, they build their internal structures and their internal institution, ensuring that the way we have our district assemblies and all of that, they make it to be more functionable and more instrumentalized, ensure that it works to the benefit of the people. The same thing happened in Bangladesh, the same thing happens in India and so many other Asian countries. They copy the Chinese model. And you see that they are progressive. Why do we have an Exim Bank in Ghana? We have a development bank in Ghana, yet our policies are not working well. So that brings to the mind that economies of what? The mind. You have to think about what the mind you have to think, you have to synergize with economies of culture. Have you worked on the attitude of the people? The culture of the people? So we have to begin to think about economies of culture, economies of attitude, psychology. If you don't psych the minds of the people brains are dead. People know that, it is good for me when I get some small job and do. People don't even understand night shift and blah 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 and all of that. I was telling somebody that the way we disperse our houses and all of that is where the African problem is. That's the beginning of the African problem because it doesn't create markets. It doesn't create markets. As I'm speaking to you, I'll finish and I have to drive kilometers. Where are we to go home? When, if all this area, the houses here are just short houses, if it was being occasioned and put up as storage buildings and all of that, and a whole lot of people live in these communities, do you know how much market would have been created? And do you know how we would have been able to utilize the area we have gone to build houses and say they are called houses? It wouldn't have been used to produce agricultural product to feed the people around here.
Yes. Well, that's another problem. Maybe.
So these are the things that we have to think about as a country. If you think differently
and plan,
you see, I always say that thinking should be 90% and execution should be 10%, and we'll be fine.
Well, okay. I think we spent much time, but this is one thing that I have to ask you. If you look at many of the achievements that the government has struck over the past year, and now we are last question. They are all goals stated right at the beginning of our NDC manifesto for 2024. Scrapping e-levy, these taxes, those taxes, and so forth. They are all stated there. Reducing inflation, stated there. Reducing the size of government, is stated there. And we have been able to chalk all these. Now, these are manifesto statements. It looks like the manifesto proposed these actions to solve problems that existed in the past few years. So, as you have gotten these achievements, what is the way forward? Because you are developing, and we know that for a country to develop, you've got development planning which spans years. What do you foresee?
Sustainability, stability. These are the things.
Yeah, so sustainability.
Make sure that you sustain your pace of development. Don't change your trajectory. The moment, even if there's going to be a slight change, then you see, the idea of a long-term development plan is not going to work. Because President Mahama did that. He even commissioned New Boy Thompson and Co.
The 40 years,
40 years. So, yeah, they were there together with PV or Bean and Co. or during they developed that plan. And when they were finishing, President Mahama lost power. He left. Akufo-Addo came. They presented the plan. The plan never worked.
Because of our negative policies. But naturally.
So that's what I'm telling you, that if you want to develop like the Chinese people have done, let's go and learn from them. Having now seen that China people, after they sat down and think about what to do, how to develop their product, and their products are now all over the world. They said that we can have the market and be poor. That was their statement. And that changed their mindset. We can't have the market and be poor. Why would we have a market and be poor?
But you have to produce in order to feed the market.
We have to produce to feed the market. So the last time I granted an interview to a media house, I told them that, look, we need synergies of the ministries.
Okay.
I didn't speak about Ministry of Education. They are doing a fantastic job, you know that.
Yes, obviously we'll be spending more time so we need to set up another time in order to focus on another ministry. Sector, yeah.
So today is just an overall assessment of the economy.
Yes.
So we need sustainability of the economic indicators that we are seeing. The indicators, figures alone don't talk for itself until it is reflected in the lives of the people.
Yeah. And
it's not just about the figures, we are having inflation coming down, exchange rate is doing this and all of that. The lives of the people must be impacted. Let them confess by themselves. Let us see economic progress.
Yeah, there are lots more.
Are there jobs for them to do?
That is one
and etc. So the jobs creation is very important. And bear in mind that the government alone don't create jobs. Government creates an enable environment.
Okay.
When the government creates an enable environment, people who have been able to get the wealth, they shouldn't keep the money in their homes and their bank accounts. They should use that to set up businesses and employ people. Yeah. That is how we can stop blaming the government. If you begin to do production, you pull funds. We don't pull funds together. Everybody wants to be in silos. Everybody wants to be in their own corner and thinking that they are rich. No. The Chinese, a man and a woman, they pull funds together, they form a company. That's what they have existed. In as much as the Chinese people may say that they are not democratic, it is authoritarian state. They allow private property to strive.
Yes.
The state don't control private property.
And that is, you are taking us into some waters. A few years ago, we had some people, especially the NPP, shouting loudly, the government has no business being in business. You remember that? Now, they have come, they have tried, and this is where we are. You see, and ironically, all the big Chinese companies which are
and have you seen that the Chinese have taken over everywhere? Now they produce their goods a lot. Now they've now gone to the African countries all over the place to begin to start Chinese more. Every corner Chinese more.
Yes.
They've taken over the retail sector.
But with the support of the state.
The state will have to begin to rethink.
You see,
in that policy
but we were practicing mixed economy.
Yes.
State partnership with private, and people were shouting against it. They attacked this same tradition.
Most of the Chinese taking over most of the vantage points in Ghana began way back in starting somewhere 2018. Most of the Chinese companies you see springing all over the place, somewhere 2018.
Yes,
so by the time that this government came into office, they already nationalized everything to the Chinese people.
Yes, so that every big Chinese construction company you see around is a government-owned company with private partnership.
Okay, so I think...
So thanks a lot for your time and explaining a few things to us. It's a vast subject area, several important areas, so we can't cover everything in one sitting. And we hope to get some more audience, we'll get some more breakdowns, some more analysis of various sectors of the economy. So we're going to thank you a lot, Dr. Jabir Mohamed, Senior Lecturer at Economics and Finance, University of Ghana Business School. Once again, we have taken a look at our government, which we voted for, the people voted for. And here we are discussing the achievements of the government. Hard work as our tradition as revolutionaries and mass mobilization with labor-intensive culture. This is what we have been able to do. This is a sign that our government has been working hard. And we pray within 4 years, we shall see a consolidation of these achievements, 1 year achievements, expansion of all the areas that we have consolidated, creation of the jobs that the youth need so badly, and then we are able to reduce unemployment, especially among the youth. But we shall be back again to have a good look at some other areas, Dr. Jabir. Thanks for coming. And this has been United Cadres from TV. My name is Bright Kenfo. See you soon. And stay in tune with us on our YouTube channels and our Facebook channels and the mainline media. But see you soon on United Cadres from TV. Bye for now.
Thank you for having me. Bye.
Yes.
Committing themselves to civil rights, the new government.
The battle has ended.
Good morning.
1969.
Missionary Charter is not only a guide to those who lead our nation in government.
Notice, Lieutenant General Jabir Mohamed
in an attempt to make scapegoats of Rawlings and his men.
For the first time in Ghana, a group of junior army officers had attempted to...
country. After 3 months, they handed over to a civilian government under Hilal Liman.
I will set the appropriate examples myself.
From B. Parliament dissolved. C.
Error has come into being in this country. Supposed to be 24.
Of the free maternity care for our women. Late President